In this segment, we're going to continue to look at our graph and see if we can do quantitative sorts of calculations. So my question is, will 50.0 grams of sodium chloride dissolve in 200 milliliters of water at 20 degrees Celsius? Well, first of all, we need to realize that our chart doesn't tell us anything about milliliters. It tells us about grams. So the question is, how do we go from grams to milliliter? Okay, so you have to let yourself think, how am I going to go from grams to milliliter? And the answer to that is that you need to know the density. And this is where people get a little bit flummoxed or confused, because you have to think about what tools you need to make this work. So the question is, well, what's the density of water? Well, the density of water in normal conditions is 1.00 grams per milliliter. So that makes our life very convenient. 200 milliliters of water is going to equal 200 grams. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our chart and see that sodium chloride at that temperature has a solubility of what I'm going to call 36 grams of NaCl per 100 grams of water at that temperature. I'm going to read that off the chart. Okay? And again, significant figures, we're going to be a little lax on this because we're reading off a chart. And if I need to be real super specific with my sig figs, I'll actually give you the numbers. Okay? So we're going to kind of relax our thinking here a little bit. We don't have 100 grams of water. We have 200 milliliters of water, which is going to equal 200 grams of water. So my question is, how many grams of sodium chloride am I going to be able to dissolve? So we're setting up a ratio and we're going to solve for x. Okay, so this times this equals this times this. All right, so 36 times 200 equals 100 times x. We're going to divide through by 100, and we see that x is going to be 72 grams max to two significant figures if we stick with what we started with. Okay, so the question is, since I can get 72 grams max, but I only want to put 50 grams in, can I get that to dissolve? And the answer is yes, you can. And this would be an unsaturated solution because I can put more into it, right? If I can accommodate 72 and I only put in 50, I can accommodate 22 more grams at that temperature, okay? How many grams of sodium nitrate would there be in 70 grams of water at 10 degrees Celsius? Okay, this assumes that we would have something that is saturated. Okay, so we're going to look at our chart and we're going to have sodium nitrate at 10 degrees Celsius, and we see that we can fit in 80 grams max. 80 grams per 100 grams of H2O at that temperature. Okay? How many grams means that's what I'm looking for per 75 grams of water. Okay, so oftentimes we have to multiply up or down depending on how much water or solution we have. So again, this times this equals this times this. So 80 times 75.0 equals 100 times x divided by 100. X is going to equal 60 grams, NaNO3. And since I started with two significant figures, I'm going to end with two significant figures. Okay? So I might ask something like, well, what happens if I try to dissolve 65 grams into that 75 grams of water? Well, our answer would be we could only get 60 grams to dissolve, 5 would remain undissolved, so the only thing we could do is either heat it up or add more water. Okay? At this point, what I would suggest doing is stopping the segment, try these two on your own, and come back and check your answer. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stop here. I will give you answers here, and then we'll start the next segment.